Agent Marcus Wells lay motionless on the cold precinct floor, blood trickling from his temple, surrounded by jeering white officers. His FBI credentials scattered beside him. Through blurring vision, he spotted the precinct camera. Perfect. They had just given him everything he needed to bring them down. Before we dive into this shocking story of corruption and racial injustice, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Hit that like button if you believe everyone deserves equal treatment under the law, and subscribe to join our community fighting for truth and justice. Now, let's uncover how Agent Wells found himself in this dangerous situation and the explosive conspiracy he was about to blow wide open. Marcus Wells adjusted his tie in the mirror of his Washington, D.C. apartment, the early morning sunlight streaming through half-drawn blinds. At 45, the decorated FBI agent carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone who had seen the worst of humanity but refused to become cynical. The silver beginning to pepper his closely cropped hair and the fine lines around his eyes were testaments to 15 years of service, investigating the most sensitive cases of police corruption. His phone buzzed with a text from Director Sandra Thompson: meeting in 20 minutes. Priority assignment. Marcus grabbed his badge gun and briefcase, taking one last look at the photo of his younger brother Elijah on the nightstand. 10 years had passed since Elijah died from injuries sustained during what should have been a routine traffic stop, but the pain remained fresh. It was Elijah's memory that drove Marcus to specialize in police misconduct cases, turning personal tragedy into professional purpose. 30 minutes later, Marcus sat across from Director Thompson in her office, as she slid a folder marked confidential across her desk. The Oakwood Police Department, she explained, suburban jurisdiction, predominantly white demographic, with troubling patterns emerging. She detailed multiple excessive force complaints against black citizens that had been systematically buried witnesses, intimidated evidence mysteriously lost. 2 previous investigators were stonewalled. Thompson continued fixing Marcus with a serious gaze. One was followed and harassed until he requested reassignment. The other found his hotel room ransacked, his case notes stolen. Marcus nodded, understanding the subtext. This wouldn't be easy, and it would be dangerous. "Why me?" he asked, though he already knew. Thompson's expression softened momentarily. "Because you're the best, Wells. And because you care about these cases in ways others don't." She didn't mention Elijah, but she didn't need to. Marcus took the file commitment already solidifying in his mind. The 3-hour drive to Oakwood revealed a town divided by invisible but unmistakable lines. The affluent north side boasted manicured lawns, luxury vehicles, and exclusively white faces watching him drive past. As he crossed Main Street into the south side, the change was immediate: rundown storefronts, crumbling infrastructure, and predominantly black residents who regarded his government sedan with open suspicion. The Oakwood Police Department headquarters sat squarely on the north side, a modern brick building with a carefully maintained facade that matched the surrounding neighborhood. Police Chief Robert Keller met Marcus in the lobby, his handshake firm but his smile never reaching his cold blue eyes. "We welcome federal oversight," Keller announced loudly enough for nearby officers to hear before lowering his voice. "Though I must say outsiders stirring up trouble rarely understand our community dynamics." The warning was thinly veiled, but Marcus simply smiled professionally. "I'm sure we'll work together productively, Chief Keller." The tour of the facilities was clearly choreographed, with certain areas conveniently under maintenance or temporarily restricted. Marcus noted each blocked area for future investigation. As they walked through the bullpen, Marcus felt the hostility from several officers, particularly a barrel-chested sergeant whose nameplate read Lawson. Sergeant James Lawson made no attempt to hide his disdain, looking Marcus up and down before turning to a colleague. "Looks like we got ourselves another diversity hire from Washington," he said, just loud enough for Marcus to hear. "Probably got his badge from a cereal box." Chief Keller pretended not to hear, quickening their pace slightly. The temporary office assigned to Marcus was little more than a storage closet with a desk crammed inside the message clear, "You are not welcome here." When he requested access to case files involving excessive force complaints, he was handed disorganized boxes of paper records with critical sections conspicuously missing. "Our digital system had a crash last year," the records clerk explained unconvincingly. still recovering some files. As Marcus sorted through the deliberately jumbled paperwork, he noticed a young Latina officer watching him from the doorway. "Officer Rodriguez," she introduced herself, dropping off additional files he'd requested. Her expression revealed conflict, as though she wanted to say more but thought better of it. Before leaving, she hesitated. "Some of these might be misfiled," she said, quietly tapping a specific folder. "Might want to check them carefully." By the end of his first day, Marcus had already identified patterns in the chaotic documentation. Excessive force incidents, primarily targeting black citizens, missing witness statements, incomplete medical reports, and officer narratives that contradicted physical evidence but were never questioned. As he left the station that evening, he spotted 3 officers surrounding a black teenager near the parking lot. The young man was backed against a patrol car, hands raised defensively as the officers crowded his personal space. Marcus changed direction, approaching casually but purposefully. "Everything all right here?" he asked, subtly displaying his FBI credentials. The officers stepped back immediately, their demeanor shifting. "Just having a chat with our friend here," one officer explained too quickly. "He matches a description." The teenager's eyes pleaded silently for help. "What description would that be?" Marcus asked pleasantly, though his expression made clear he wasn't leaving. After an uncomfortable silence, the officers retreated, muttering about interference and jurisdiction. The teenager, who introduced himself as Deshawn, thanked Marcus quietly before hurrying away. Marcus watched him go, acutely aware of the officers watching from the station windows. The battle lines had been drawn on day 1. Over the next 2 weeks, Marcus established a methodical investigation routine, dividing his time between reviewing case files and conducting interviews with alleged victims of police misconduct. Each morning he arrived at the precinct to find evidence of overnight tampering files, rearranged notes, moved his laptop repositioned, despite being locked in a drawer. He began keeping critical evidence with him at all times and backing up his findings to secure FBI servers hourly. The victims' stories followed disturbing patterns. 27-year-old Michael Taylor described being slammed against his car during a traffic stop for a broken taillight, then tased when he asked why he was being detained. 62-year-old Gladys Perkins recounted officers ransacking her home on a fraudulent warrant, destroying family photos and keepsakes while using racial slurs. 19-year-old college student Aisha Johnson showed Marcus photos of bruises from handcuffs applied so tightly they cut her skin during an arrest for suspicious behavior that was later dismissed without charges. In each case, official police reports described combative subjects and reasonable force contradicting victim accounts, witness statements, and often physical evidence. When Marcus questioned officers about these discrepancies, he faced a wall of rehearsed responses and thinly veiled hostility. "You weren't there" became the standard rebuttal, along with suggestions that certain communities were known to exaggerate police interactions and play the race card. Marcus noticed he was being followed whenever he entered predominantly black neighborhoods. Unmarked police vehicles parked conspicuously across from interview locations, and several witnesses reported officers warning them against speaking with the FBI. Despite the intimidation, Marcus found a crucial ally in Jamal Washington, a respected community organizer whose 20-year-old son Darius had been severely beaten during what should have been a routine traffic stop. Darius suffered 3 broken ribs, a fractured eye socket, and nerve damage in his left hand. The official report claimed he had attacked officers despite dashcam footage showing him complying with all commands before being dragged from his vehicle. "We've been documenting everything," Jamal told Marcus during their 3rd meeting, at a community center far from prying eyes. He provided Marcus with a flash drive containing secretly recorded conversations, cell phone videos of arrests, and a list of 50 witnesses willing to testify about systemic abuses. People are scared, but they're more scared of staying silent now. Meanwhile, the harassment escalated. Marcus found his tires slashed with "Go Home" scratched into his car door. His motel room was broken into twice, though nothing was stolen. The intrusions clearly meant as intimidation. Anonymous notes appeared under his door with messages like, "Race traitors get what they deserve," and "accidents happen to feds, too." Marcus documented each incident, meticulously recognizing that every act of intimidation was further evidence of departmental corruption. The breakthrough came unexpectedly when Officer Tanya Rodriguez approached him in the parking garage, looking nervously over her shoulder. "Not here," she whispered. "Corner of Maple and 4th, the coffee shop." 30 minutes. At the meeting, Rodriguez revealed she had been with the department for 3 years and had witnessed escalating misconduct. "It's not random," she explained, voice barely above a whisper. "There's an unofficial policy. Lawson calls it proactive community management. They target black neighborhoods, use minor violations to justify stops, escalate situations deliberately." She described how officers disabled body cameras before certain interactions and how reports were systematically altered. "Keller knows everything. He's the one who decides which officers patrol which areas. The most aggressive ones always get assigned to Southside neighborhoods." Before she could share specific evidence, 2 Oakwood officers entered the coffee shop. Rodriguez immediately stood up, making a show of checking her watch. "Sorry, can't help with directions after all," she said loudly before hurrying out. The next day, Rodriguez was nowhere to be found. When Marcus inquired about her absence, the desk sergeant informed him she'd been transferred to administrative duties at another precinct, effective immediately. No forwarding information was available. Marcus knew his investigation was compromised and that traditional methods would no longer work. That evening, he purchased several small surveillance cameras and began planning a more covert approach to gathering evidence. The corruption in Oakwood ran deep, but every act of obstruction only strengthened his resolve to expose the truth, no matter the personal risk. The motel room walls seemed to close in on Marcus as he meticulously installed hidden cameras in strategic locations. One disguised as a smoke detector above the door, another concealed in the alarm clock facing the room's entrance, a third hidden in the air conditioning vent. After 2 hours of careful work, his impromptu surveillance system was operational, with footage backing up automatically to his encrypted cloud storage. "They think they know what I'm doing," he muttered to himself, "but they have no idea who they're dealing with." Marcus created elaborately labeled decoy files filled with inconsequential information, leaving them conspicuously in his room while keeping the genuine evidence secured on encrypted drives he carried with him or uploaded to protected FBI servers. He deliberately established predictable patterns: morning coffee at the same diner, evening runs along the same route, regular calls to FBI headquarters from his motel room at specific times. The predictability was making his movements easy to track while disguising his actual investigation progress. During a late-night review of materials, Marcus discovered body cam footage that hadn't been properly deleted before being archived. Officer Peterson's camera had continued recording for 45 seconds after he claimed to have turned it off, capturing Sergeant Lawson instructing officers to make sure these videos disappear after an incident involving a black motorist. In another folder, Marcus found financial records showing evidence from drug busts consistently logged at lower amounts than officers initially reported, suggesting theft before official processing. Most damning was a series of text messages recovered from a department phone revealing coordinated cover-ups going back at least 5 years. By his 3rd week in Oakwood, Marcus had compiled enough evidence to justify a full federal investigation, though he continued gathering material to strengthen the case. The attack came on a Tuesday evening as he returned to his motel after dinner. 4 officers waited in the poorly lit parking lot positioned between Marcus and his room. He recognized Sergeant Lawson, immediately flanked by Officers Denton Miller and Bryce. Evening Agent Wells Lawson called out, his tone mockingly polite. Having a productive visit to our little town, Marcus kept his expression neutral, mentally calculating his options. "Very productive, thank you. Something I can help you, gentlemen, with." Lawson stepped forward, invading Marcus's personal space. "Actually, we've been hearing complaints about you, interfering with police business, harassing citizens with false claims about our department." Marcus maintained eye contact, subtly activating the recording function on his phone in his pocket. "I'm conducting a federal investigation under proper authority. Any concerns should be directed to my supervisor at the Bureau." Lawson's face hardened. We don't much care for outsiders coming here stirring up trouble where there isn't any, especially outsiders who don't know their place. The racial undertone was unmistakable. Marcus noticed Officer Miller moving to flank him. "I'll be sure to note your concerns in my report," Marcus replied calmly, attempting to step around them. Lawson grabbed Marcus's arm. "That a phone recording us? That's illegal surveillance, boys." Before Marcus could respond, Officer Denton wrenched the phone from his hand. What happened next was a coordinated assault. Marcus was forced to the ground, his FBI credentials ripped from his jacket and thrown aside. "Not so tough without your badge, are you?" Lawson taunted, as the officers pinned Marcus down. Officer Bryce produced a taser. "Let's see how you like getting the treatment you claim we give others." The first shock hit Marcus in the lower back, sending excruciating pain through his body. As he convulsed, the officers laughed. "Look at him dance," Miller jeered. "Should have stayed in Washington with the other diversity hires." A second shock followed, then a third. Through the pain, Marcus heard Lawson's voice close to his ear. "This is just a friendly Oakwood welcome. Drop your investigation, or next time we won't be using tasers." They left him in the parking lot, taking his phone but tossing his credentials nearby in a final show of disrespect. Marcus lay there for several minutes, waiting for the muscle spasms to subside, his mind already formulating his response. This wasn't just an attack, it was evidence, and they had handed it to him without realizing it. Once able to move, Marcus retrieved his credentials and carefully made his way to his room. Rather than reporting the assault immediately, he downloaded the footage from his hidden cameras, which had captured his return to the motel and the officers lying in wait. The outdoor camera had even recorded portions of the attack. He secured this new evidence before treating his injuries, understanding that this assault had just given him the leverage he needed. Do you think Marcus should report this assault immediately to his FBI superiors or continue gathering evidence quietly? Comment number 1, if you believe he should report it right away, putting his safety first. Or number 2, if you think he should hold this evidence close, using it strategically when the time is right. Either way, the corrupt officers have made a critical mistake targeting a federal agent. Like this video if you're ready to see justice served, and subscribe to follow Marcus's dangerous investigation. The situation is escalating rapidly, but what these officers don't realize is that their victim has been 3 steps ahead from the beginning. How will Marcus use this attack to his advantage, and what other corruption might he uncover as he digs deeper into the Oakwood Police Department? The morning after the assault, Marcus examined his injuries in the bathroom mirror: burn marks from the taser on his back, bruising along his ribs, and a small cut near his temple where his head had hit the pavement. Physical pain he could manage with over-the-counter medication, but the psychological impact ran deeper. The naked hatred in Lawson's eyes, the casual use of racial slurs, the laughter as they tortured him, all brought back memories of his brother's death and the officers who were never held accountable. Marcus splashed cold water on his face, fighting back the urge to request immediate extraction from Oakwood. He thought of all the victims he'd interviewed, of Jamal Washington's son with his permanent nerve damage, of the fear in Deshawn's eyes when surrounded by officers. If he left now, who would speak for them? His secure FBI phone rang, displaying Director Thompson's number. He took a deep breath before answering. "Wells," he said, keeping his voice steady despite the pain radiating through his torso. "Marcus, update me on your progress," Thompson demanded without preamble. "The Oakwood mayor called our deputy director complaining about your investigation disrupting police operations." Marcus gave her a carefully edited version of his findings, emphasizing the documented pattern of misconduct while omitting the previous night's assault. If Thompson knew he'd been attacked, protocol would require his immediate removal from the field. "I need another week," he concluded. "I'm close to establishing definitive evidence of systematic civil rights violations." Thompson was silent for a moment. "You don't sound right, Wells. Is there something you're not telling me?" Marcus thought about the taser burns on his back, the missing phone, the footage of officers attacking a federal agent. Just tired director. This case has a lot of moving parts. She didn't sound convinced, but didn't press further. 72 hours, Wells. Then I want a preliminary report, and we'll decide next steps." After the call, Marcus focused on locating Officer Rodriguez. Her sudden transfer had all the hallmarks of a cover-up. Using FBI resources, he tracked her to an apartment in Millfield, 30 miles from Oakwood. He drove there that afternoon, finding her living in a sparse one-bedroom unit with packed boxes still stacked in the corners. Her eyes widened with surprise and fear when she opened the door. "Agent Wells, how did you? You shouldn't be here." Despite her words, she stepped aside to let him enter. Once inside, Rodriguez's professional demeanor crumbled. "They suspended me," she admitted, hands trembling slightly as she offered him coffee. "Claimed I mishandled evidence, falsified reports. It's all lies, but internal affairs is controlled by Keller's friends." She'd been with the department for 3 years, initially proud to serve her community. The disillusionment began 6 months in when she witnessed officers planting evidence on a 17-year-old black teenager named Marcus Johnson. They called it street justice. Said he'd probably done something else they hadn't caught him for. When she raised concerns to her supervisor, she was paired with Sergeant Lawson for 2 weeks of retraining. "It was a warning," she explained. "I watched Lawson profile, harass, and abuse black citizens daily. He made me participate or face consequences." Rodriguez walked to a closet, removing a false panel to reveal a box containing flash drives, notebooks, and a small recorder. "I've been documenting everything. Dates, times, badge numbers. Audio when I could get it safely. I was planning to contact the Justice Department anonymously when I had enough." Marcus examined her evidence, finding it meticulously organized excessive force incidents, categorized by officer, falsified reports, paired with original drafts, racial profiling statistics she'd compiled unofficially. Combined with his own evidence, it created a devastating picture of departmental corruption. As Marcus prepared to leave, Rodriguez grabbed his arm, noticing his wince of pain. "They got to you too, didn't they?" He didn't answer, but his expression confirmed her suspicion. "Be careful, Agent Wells. Lawson has friends everywhere, even in federal agencies." That warning echoed in Marcus's mind the next day when he received an unexpected message from an officer, Brian Mitchell, requesting a meeting. The request came through proper channels but felt like a potential trap. Marcus arranged to meet in the public library, arriving early to secure a position with clear sightlines and multiple exit routes. Mitchell arrived alone, a nervous-looking white officer in his 30s who continually scanned the room as they spoke. "I'm not like them," he began without preamble. "I joined to serve the community, all of the community." Mitchell explained he'd been with the department for 5 years, gradually becoming aware of the systemic discrimination but afraid to speak out. "They make examples of officers who question things." Rodriguez wasn't the first to be forced out. What had changed, Mitchell admitted with shame evident in his expression, was witnessing Marcus's assault. "I was on dispatch duty. Heard Lawson coordinating with the others, planning where to wait for you. I should have warned you, but I was scared." To prove his sincerity, Mitchell provided Marcus with his personal access codes to the department's restricted records and offered to serve as an informant. "Most officers aren't bad people," Mitchell insisted. "They're trapped in a system where speaking out gets you ostracized or worse. Lawson and Keller have created a culture of fear." The unexpected alliance with Mitchell provided Marcus access to areas of the investigation previously blocked, including internal disciplinary records showing black officers consistently receiving harsher punishments than their white counterparts for similar infractions. As Marcus's investigation deepened, Chief Keller launched a public relations counteroffensive. He held a press conference on the steps of the police headquarters, surrounded by carefully selected officers, including 2 of the department's 5 black officers, positioned prominently for cameras. "The Oakwood Police Department has always maintained excellent community relations," Keller announced to assembled reporters. "Today, I'm proud to announce new diversity initiatives that will further strengthen those bonds." He outlined plans for community outreach programs and implicit bias training, transparent attempts to create positive headlines ahead of any potential findings from Marcus's investigation. During the question period, Keller spotted Marcus standing at the back of the crowd. "Agent Wells." He called out, drawing all eyes to Marcus. "Perhaps you'd like to share your thoughts on our department's community engagement efforts." The unexpected spotlight was a calculated move to publicly identify Marcus and put him on the defensive. Marcus responded with diplomatic vagueness about appreciating all efforts toward community improvement while maintaining eye contact with Keller, letting him know the intimidation tactic had failed. As reporters dispersed, Keller approached Marcus privately. "You know, Agent Wells, outsiders often misunderstand local practices, cultural differences, community expectations. They create contexts that might seem problematic to someone without proper background. The implied threat was clear. You don't belong here. You don't understand us. You should leave." Marcus simply smiled. "I find that justice and constitutional rights rarely vary by jurisdiction, Chief Keller. But I appreciate your concern for my understanding." Walking away, Marcus felt Keller's eyes boring into his back, the chief unaware that his transparent intimidation attempts were only adding to the case being built against him and his department. Armed with Officer Mitchell's access codes, Marcus spent a sleepless night combing through restricted departmental databases, uncovering corruption far more extensive than he'd initially suspected. The discrimination wasn't limited to street-level harassment and excessive force. It was an orchestrated system designed to target black residents at every level of the criminal justice process. Arrest records revealed black citizens were 6 times more likely to be charged with felonies than whites for identical offenses. Internal communication showed officers were encouraged to conduct aggressive enforcement in predominantly black neighborhoods, with performance evaluations rewarding high arrest numbers in these areas. Most disturbing were the sentencing disparities. Black defendants consistently received longer sentences than their white counterparts for identical crimes, often pressured into unfavorable plea deals by overworked public defenders and prosecutors who maintained suspiciously close relationships with the police department. Following the financial threads, Marcus discovered connections to Oakwood Correctional Facility, a privately run prison 20 miles outside town. The facility received county funding based on occupancy rates, creating a financial incentive to keep cells filled. Several Oakwood officials, including Judge Michael Harrington, who handled most criminal cases, owned shares in the prison's parent company. Each conviction literally paid dividends. The corruption extended beyond criminal justice into economic oppression. Department records revealed a pattern of excessive code enforcement against black-owned businesses. Health inspections, fire code violations, and licensing issues were weaponized to pressure owners into selling to white investors connected to city council members. Marcus identified 17 black-owned businesses forced to close or sell under these circumstances in the past 3 years alone. The conspiracy's breadth required additional documentation beyond what Marcus could gather alone. He reached out to Sarah Bennett, an investigative journalist he'd noticed asking pointed questions at Keller's press conference. After vetting her background and confirming her history of reporting on institutional racism, Marcus arranged a meeting at a diner in neighboring Clayton County outside Oakwood's jurisdiction. Bennett arrived with a laptop and several notebooks, immediately recognizing the significance of Marcus's approach. "I've been investigating economic discrimination in Oakwood for 18 months, she explained, sharing research files documenting the systematic denial of business loans to black entrepreneurs and discriminatory property tax assessments in predominantly black neighborhoods. Every time I get close to publishing, something happens. Sources back out. Records disappear. My editor receives calls from concerned citizens about my biased reporting." The collaboration proved immediately fruitful. Bennett's economic research complemented Marcus's law enforcement findings, revealing a comprehensive system of racial oppression maintained through interconnected institutions. Together they identified key players beyond the police department: Judge Harrington, District Attorney William Palmer, City Manager Robert Griffith, and several city council members who benefited financially from discriminatory policies. Marcus provided Bennett with enough information to begin publishing limited findings without compromising his ongoing investigation or revealing his confidential sources. Her first article, focusing on business discrimination patterns rather than police misconduct, would serve as a test to see who reacted and how. Meanwhile, Sergeant Lawson and his allies realized Officer Mitchell was helping Marcus. The evening after Bennett's first article appeared, Mitchell was assigned to assist with what was described as a routine drug bust. At the scene, he watched in horror as Lawson planted evidence in a suspect's vehicle, then ordered Mitchell to document the discovery. When Mitchell hesitated, Lawson pulled him aside. "We know you've been talking to that Fed," he hissed. "Either you're with us or you're going down. Hard." Lawson explained in explicit detail how easily Mitchell could be framed for evidence tampering, drug theft, or worse. "We've done it before." Mitchell managed to send Marcus an encrypted warning message before being forced to participate in the falsified arrest. The message was brief but clear. "Compromised. Lawson knows. Be careful." With Mitchell's cover blown and Officer Rodriguez's evidence already incorporated into his case file, Marcus knew he needed to accelerate his timeline. He arranged a secure meeting with federal prosecutors for the following day in the neighboring city of Westridge, planning to hand over his evidence and request immediate intervention. The evidence was overwhelming: constitutional violations, civil rights abuses, financial crimes, and conspiracy, spanning multiple agencies. Marcus carefully organized his documentation, backing everything up to secure servers and preparing a comprehensive brief for the Department of Justice. He left his motel at 5:30 the next morning, taking a circuitous route to avoid potential surveillance. 20 minutes into his drive, headlights appeared in his rearview mirror, closing rapidly. An unmarked police cruiser with tinted windows rammed his rear bumper, causing his car to swerve. Marcus attempted evasive driving maneuvers using his FBI tactical training to maintain control of his vehicle, but a second unmarked car appeared ahead, blocking the narrow road. The vehicles worked in tandem, forcing Marcus's car toward a steep roadside ditch. Fighting the steering wheel, Marcus couldn't prevent the inevitable crash as his car left the road rolling once before, coming to rest against a tree. Pain exploded in his left shoulder and ribs, but adrenaline kept him moving. Through the cracked windshield, Marcus saw figures approaching from both vehicles, weapons drawn. With seconds to decide, he grabbed his backup weapon credentials and the flash drive containing key evidence, then forced open the passenger door and fled into the dense woods alongside the road. Gunshots followed splintering tree bark near his head as he zigzagged between trees, using the pre-dawn darkness as cover. After 15 minutes of difficult terrain navigation with an injured shoulder, Marcus stopped to assess his situation. He was miles from his intended destination with no vehicle, pursued by armed officers who had just attempted to kill a federal agent. His phone had been left behind in the crashed car, along with his laptop and other belongings. He was injured, isolated, and cut off from official support. But he was alive and still possessed the core evidence needed to bring down the corrupt system. As daylight broke, Marcus heard police radios and dogs in the distance. The hunt had begun in earnest, and he needed to find safe harbor quickly before his strength or luck ran out. Blood seeped through Marcus's shirt as he navigated the unfamiliar woods, each step sending shards of pain through his injured shoulder. The distant sound of search dogs and crackling police radios pushed him forward despite the growing lightheadedness from blood loss. After 2 hours of careful movement, he reached the edge of the forest where it bordered Oakwood's south side neighborhood. Concealed behind a storage shed, Marcus assessed his options. He couldn't risk a hospital where police would certainly be watching. Official FBI channels might be compromised if Keller had contacts in federal agencies, as Rodriguez had warned. With limited choices, Marcus made his way to the community center, where he'd previously met with Jamal Washington. The early morning hour meant the building was empty, except for a maintenance worker who eyed Marcus's blood-stained clothing with alarm. "Need to find Jamal Washington," Marcus managed to say, leaning heavily against the wall. "Emergency." Whether from recognition or simply human decency, the worker made a phone call without asking questions. 20 minutes later, Jamal arrived with his cousin, who drove a delivery van. They helped Marcus into the vehicle, concealing him under empty cardboard boxes before driving to a small house in the heart of the South Side. "Pastor Johnson's place," Jamal explained as they helped Marcus inside. "Safest spot in the neighborhood." Reverend David Johnson was 68, with kind eyes that had witnessed decades of injustice without losing their compassion. He treated Marcus's wounds with surprising skill. Vietnam medic before I found my calling, he explained, cleaning and bandaging the deep gash in Marcus's shoulder. Seen worse, fixed worse. While Jamal made calls from a burner phone, Reverend Johnson turned on a small television in the corner. Breaking news showed Marcus's damaged government vehicle being towed from the woods. Chief Keller stood before cameras, his expression grave as he announced, "We are seeking FBI agent Marcus Wells for questioning regarding missing evidence and interference with police operations." Initial investigation suggests Agent Wells may have fabricated claims against our department while removing or tampering with official police records. The broadcast showed Marcus's official FBI photo alongside warnings that he might be unstable and potentially dangerous. Jamal returned, his expression grim. "They're searching every house in the South Side. Kicked in 3 doors already. Claiming they have warrants, but nobody's seen any paperwork." Throughout the day, a network of community members helped move Marcus between safe houses, staying ahead of police searches. Grandmothers, church deacons, local business owners, and teenagers all played roles in the impromptu Underground Railroad, demonstrating a community solidarity born from shared experiences with police oppression. By nightfall, Marcus learned that Officer Rodriguez had been arrested on fabricated charges of evidence tampering. Officer Mitchell had been suspended pending investigation of alleged drug theft. Even Sarah Bennett had been detained briefly for questioning about her sources, her apartment searched under a hastily obtained warrant. From his hiding place in the back room of a barbershop, Marcus watched Director Thompson on the evening news, her expression carefully neutral. "We are concerned about Agent Wells's disappearance and urge him to contact FBI headquarters immediately." While we cannot comment on ongoing investigations, the FBI takes all allegations seriously, whether against police departments or our own agents. Her carefully worded statement revealed nothing about whose side she was on. Was she genuinely concerned or part of the effort to discredit him? Using borrowed laptops and connecting through secure networks, Marcus managed to send encrypted evidence packages to trusted FBI colleagues outside his direct chain of command. He also forwarded key documentation to Sarah Bennett as insurance, ensuring multiple copies existed beyond his possession. His old academy classmate Lisa Chen, now an FBI cybersecurity specialist, responded to his emergency contact protocol with immediate assistance. Without knowing his location, she helped him access Oakwood PD's servers, remotely retrieving additional evidence of falsified reports and documenting the digital trail of the conspiracy. "They've created a backdated internal affairs investigation against you," Chen informed him, through encrypted messaging, claiming you sexually harassed Officer Rodriguez and threatened Officer Mitchell for not cooperating with your vendetta against the department. Meanwhile, Chen's financial forensics uncovered the complex web of payments linking the police department, judges, prosecutors, and the private prison system, all funneled through shell companies and seemingly legitimate business investments. Throughout his second day in hiding, Marcus received reports of escalating police activity in black neighborhoods. Officers conducted aggressive sweeps, arresting residents on minor charges and openly questioning them about Marcus's whereabouts. Jamal's 20-year-old son Darius was detained again, ostensibly for matching the description of a robbery suspect, though no robbery had been reported. The message was, "Clear, cooperate, or face consequences." That evening, hidden in the attic of a church, Marcus finally connected with Director Thompson through a secure line provided by Lisa Chen. "Wells, what the hell is happening?" Thompson demanded, her voice a mixture of anger and concern. "Are you injured?" Marcus gave her a full briefing, including the taser assault, the vehicular attack, and the evidence he'd gathered about the departmental conspiracy. He sent her secure access codes to his encrypted evidence files, watching her expression change as she reviewed documents in real time during their video call. "Jesus Christ," she muttered, scrolling through financial records linking Chief Keller to the private prison operators. "This goes beyond anything we anticipated." Her initial skepticism transformed to strategic focus. "Stay hidden," she instructed. "I'm activating our emergency response team. We'll establish a secure extraction and set up a command center in Westridge. 72 hours maximum. As they finalized plans, Marcus heard banging on the church's front doors. Through the attic vent, he spotted police vehicles surrounding the building. Someone had betrayed his location. "They found me," he whispered, ending the call as footsteps pounded up the stairs. Reverend Johnson appeared in the attic, access his face urgent but calm. "Roof access behind the bell tower. My nephew's waiting 2 blocks east with a car." As Marcus slipped away, he heard the Reverend greeting officers loudly buying precious time with questions about warrants and constitutional rights. Is there someone in your life who would risk everything to help you when you're in danger? Comment number 1. If you believe community solidarity is our strongest defense against corruption. Or number 2, if you think Marcus should have trusted official channels from the beginning. Hit like if you're inspired by the courage of everyday people standing against injustice, and subscribe to follow this investigation to its conclusion. The walls are closing in around Marcus, but with the community's help and FBI reinforcements on the way, the tide may be turning. Yet questions remain: who betrayed his location? Can Director Thompson be fully trusted? And how far will Chief Keller and Sergeant Lawson go to protect their corrupt system? The rain fell in sheets across Oakwood, providing Marcus with natural cover as he moved between shadows, making his way to the rendezvous point where Reverend Johnson's nephew waited. 23-year-old Anthony Johnson had the situational awareness of someone who'd navigated hostile territory his entire life, driving circuitous routes to evade potential followers before delivering Marcus to an abandoned dentist's office on the edge of town. "My cousin owns the building," Anthony explained, unlocking a rear entrance. "Been empty 6 months since he moved to a new location. Still has electricity and water." The makeshift safe house contained a break room with a couch-functioning bathroom and, most importantly, internet access through an overlooked utility connection. Marcus established secure communications with Lisa Chen, who had been working around the clock breaking through Oakwood PD's digital security measures. "You've become quite the celebrity," she informed him, sending links to news reports about the rogue FBI agent allegedly fabricating evidence against the respected Oakwood Police Department. Chen's digital expertise had yielded critical evidence emails between Chief Keller and Judge Harrington discussing how to handle problem cases, internal messaging showing officers coordinating to disable body cameras before certain arrests, financial transfers between the private prison company and shell corporations owned by city officials. "They're not as clever with their digital footprint as they think," Chen noted with professional satisfaction. "Amateurs try to delete evidence. They don't realize deletion creates its own evidence trail." Marcus organized the growing mountain of digital proof, combining it with Officer Rodriguez's documentation and his own findings. The case was becoming ironclad, documenting years of systematic discrimination, constitutional violations, and financial crimes. Meanwhile, Sarah Bennett published her second article, focusing on the private prison connection without revealing her FBI source. The story created immediate public pressure, with civil rights organizations calling for independent investigations and community members organizing protests outside police headquarters. Bennett carefully included redacted documents proving her claims while protecting sensitive information that could compromise Marcus's safety or the broader investigation. As predicted, the publication created fractures within the conspiracy. Less committed officers, fearing federal charges, began seeking legal counsel. City council members publicly distanced themselves from the police department, calling for transparency and accountability, while privately scrambling to hide their connections. Chief Keller held another press conference, appearing visibly strained as he denounced irresponsible journalism and baseless accusations. Sergeant Lawson was conspicuously absent, having called in sick for 3 consecutive days. Director Thompson established a secure video conference, with Marcus bringing in Justice Department officials and FBI tactical planners. "We have enough for multiple federal indictments," the lead prosecutor confirmed after reviewing the evidence. "Civil rights violations, obstruction of justice, conspiracy, financial crimes across multiple agencies. This is RICO territory." The team developed a 2-phase plan. First, extract Marcus safely and establish a secure base of operations. Second, conduct coordinated raids and arrests across multiple locations simultaneously to prevent evidence, destruction, or flight. "The critical issue is your testimony," Thompson explained. "We need you alive and credible." Keller's smear campaign is gaining traction in certain media circles. Marcus's counterproposal surprised the assembled officials. "I'll let them find me." He outlined a strategic sting operation. Rather than extraction, he would allow himself to be discovered and brought to the precinct wearing concealed recording devices with FBI tactical teams positioned nearby. Keller and Lawson are desperate. If they think they have me cornered, they'll make mistakes, reveal things they wouldn't otherwise. Thompson initially rejected the plan as too dangerous, but the Justice Department prosecutor saw its merit. If Wells can get Keller or Lawson on record admitting to any part of this conspiracy, it strengthens our case significantly. After 2 hours of debate and refinement, the plan was approved with modifications. Marcus would wear state-of-the-art recording equipment disguised as ordinary items, a watch with audio, video capabilities, eyeglasses with hidden camera, and a specially designed phone case containing backup recording devices and tracking technology. FBI tactical teams would establish positions throughout Oakwood ready to intervene within 2 minutes of any emergency signal. The extraction team rehearsed multiple scenarios, while technical specialists prepared and tested the surveillance equipment. Everything had to work perfectly, as there would be no second chances. The night before implementing the operation, Marcus met with Jamal Washington at Reverend Johnson's church, now empty after evening services. The conversation shifted from tactical details to deeper questions of purpose and consequence. "When this is over, what happens to our community?" Jamal asked, his expression troubled. "Federal agents arrest some bad cops headlines for a few weeks, then what? The system remains." Marcus had been so focused on building the case that he hadn't fully considered the aftermath. The Justice Department can implement consent decrees, mandate departmental reforms, establish federal oversight. He offered, aware these bureaucratic solutions sounded hollow against generations of experienced oppression. Jamal nodded slowly. "I've lived under 3 consent decrees in my lifetime. Papers get signed, policies get written, nothing really changes." He described how his own journey had evolved from rage after his son's beating to recognition that lasting change required more than punishment of individuals. "When they beat Darius, I wanted them dead," Jamal admitted quietly. "Carried that hatred for months, planning ways to hurt them like they hurt my boy." He'd ultimately channeled that energy into community organizing, instead building networks of mutual support and accountability. Justice isn't just about punishing the guilty. It's about healing what's broken. The conversation forced Marcus to examine his own motivations. Was he pursuing justice or vengeance? Was he trying to fix a broken system or simply punish those who had abused it? He thought about his brother Elijah, wondering what justice would have meant to him. "I joined the FBI after my brother was killed by police." Marcus shared the first time he'd spoken of it since arriving in Oakwood. "Thought I could change things from inside. Some days I wonder if I'm just part of the problem wearing a different uniform." Jamal considered this. Intent matters. Systems are made of people. People can change systems, but only if they stay human while doing it. As their conversation concluded, Jamal offered Marcus a worn Bible. "My grandmother's Jum. She carried it during Freedom Summer in '64. Said it stopped a Klansman's bullet once." Marcus accepted the book with reverence, tucking it into his jacket pocket. "I'm not particularly religious," he admitted. Jamal smiled. "Neither was my grandmother by the end. Said she believed in people more than prayers. But she kept that Bible as a reminder that protection comes in many forms." The 2 men embraced understanding the next day would transform both their lives regardless of outcome. As Marcus prepared for sleep on his temporary cot, he reviewed the operation details one final time. The FBI had identified a concerned citizen who would report Marcus's location, triggering Oakwood PD's response. Every contingency had been planned for every escape route, mapped, every technical system tested. Yet as he drifted toward sleep, Marcus found himself touching the Bible in his pocket, appreciating that some forms of protection couldn't be planned or strategized, only accepted with gratitude when offered. Dawn broke with heavy fog shrouding Oakwood weather forecasters predicting thunderstorms by afternoon. Marcus completed his final equipment check in the abandoned dentist's office. Recording devices, activated tracking beacon, tested emergency signal functioning. The specially designed watch and eyeglasses felt slightly heavier than standard versions, but looked completely normal. The Bible from Jamal remained in his jacket pocket, an unplanned addition to his carefully prepared equipment. At precisely 8:15, according to plan, a concerned citizen called Oakwood PD, reporting a man matching Marcus's description, entering an abandoned building on Willow Street. Marcus positioned himself in the main examination room, visible from the street but away from potential sniper angles. He didn't have to wait long. Within 12 minutes, police vehicles converged on the location, officers establishing a perimeter with military precision. Through the partially open blinds, Marcus spotted Sergeant Lawson directing operations, his expression a mixture of anticipation and rage. The entry team breached both doors simultaneously, tactical flashlights cutting through the dim interior as officers shouted contradictory commands. "Freeze on the ground! Hands up! Don't move!" Marcus complied carefully, keeping his plate, movements slow and deliberate, as 4 officers surrounded him, weapons drawn. Sergeant Lawson entered once the room was secured, dismissing the junior officers with a gesture. "Well, well. The famous Agent Wells," he sneered, circling Marcus like a predator. "Not so hidden after all." 2 officers roughly handcuffed Marcus, intentionally tightening the restraints beyond necessary. "Careful with the merchandise, boys," Lawson instructed with mock concern. "Our guest has important friends in Washington. For now, anyway." The trip to the precinct became its own form of punishment. Rather than placing Marcus in a transport vehicle, Lawson ordered him to walk the 8 blocks to police headquarters, a public humiliation paraded past morning commuters and news cameras that had mysteriously been tipped off. Officers flanked him occasionally, shoving him forward when his pace slowed. "Smile for the cameras," Agent Lawson taunted. "Your FBI career is over, but maybe CNN will hire you. They love race hustlers like you." At police headquarters, Marcus was taken to an interrogation room rather than a holding cell, confirming his suspicion that Keller wanted information more than an arrest. The recording devices continued capturing everything the room set up. The officers present each procedural violation as they denied his requests for counsel and medical attention for his reopened shoulder wound. After 30 minutes alone in the interrogation room, the door opened to admit Chief Keller, his public facade of professionalism replaced by undisguised contempt. "Agent Wells," he began, remaining standing rather than taking the seat opposite Marcus. "You've created quite a problem for yourself." Sergeant Lawson entered behind him, leaning against the wall with arms crossed. Marcus remained silent, allowing them to establish the dynamic they thought they controlled. "We've been authorized to hold you for 72 hours before federal transport," Keller continued. "Plenty of time to discuss your creative interpretation of our department's procedures." The implied threat hung in the air. Lawson pushed off from the wall, placing both hands on the table and leaning into Marcus's space. "Here's how this works. You signed some papers admitting you falsified evidence, got carried away with a personal vendetta. We contact your director, explain how you cooperated, showed remorse. You get a quiet resignation instead of criminal charges." When Marcus remained silent, Lawson's facade cracked slightly. "Don't be stupid. Nobody's coming to save you. Your FBI friends have already distanced themselves." Marcus finally spoke, his voice calm despite the throbbing pain in his shoulder. "I'd like to contact my attorney." Keller laughed, a short, humorless sound. "Eventually. First, we need to clear up some misunderstandings." He placed a document on the table, a confession already prepared with blank spaces for Marcus's signature. "We can make this easy or difficult. Your choice." Marcus studied the document without touching it. "And if I don't sign," Lawson's hand shot out, gripping Marcus's injured shoulder and squeezing until spots appeared in Marcus's vision. "Then we have 3 days to persuade you. Remember our little parking lot conversation? That was just a warm-up." Marcus straightened in his chair once Lawson released his grip. "You mean when 4 officers of this department physically assaulted a federal agent conducting an official investigation?" "That conversation." The momentary flash of uncertainty in Keller's eyes confirmed what Marcus suspected. Lawson hadn't fully briefed his superior on the taser incident. Marcus pressed his advantage, reciting dates, times, and names of individuals involved in specific incidents of misconduct, watching Keller's expression shift from confidence to concern. We have sworn statements from 17 victims of excessive force, financial records linking department leadership to the private prison system, text messages between officers coordinating false arrests and evidence planting. With each revelation, the dynamic in the room shifted subtly. Keller moved to the corner, whispering urgently to Lawson, whose face flushed with anger. When they returned to the table, Keller's approach had changed. "Look, Wells, maybe we got off on the wrong foot. Every department has problems, officers, who take things too far. We could implement reforms, sensitivity training, community oversight, work together on this." The attempted pivot to conciliation came too late. Marcus continued methodically listing evidence: Judge Harrington's offshore accounts, receiving payments after each sentencing of black defendants to Oakwood Correctional; Councilman Parker's real estate company acquiring properties following targeted enforcement against black business owners; Officer Bryce's body camera footage showing explicit instructions to focus arrests on urban elements in the South Side. Lawson's control finally shattered. "Shut your mouth," he shouted, lunging across the table and grabbing Marcus by the throat. "You think your race traitor friends will protect you? You're nothing. We run this town." Keller attempted to pull Lawson back, his voice urgent. "Jim, stop. This isn't helping." The interrogation room door burst open as Director Thompson entered, flanked by FBI agents with weapons drawn. "Federal agents, step away from him now." Thompson's voice cut through the chaos with command authority. Lawson froze, then slowly released his grip on Marcus, raising his hands. "This is a local police matter," Keller began, attempting to reassert control. "You have no jurisdiction," Thompson cut him off. "Chief Robert Keller, Sergeant James Lawson, you're both under arrest for civil rights violations, conspiracy against rights, and assaulting a federal officer." As FBI agents secured the room, Thompson activated her radio. "Execute all warrants. All teams go." Throughout the building, federal agents were simultaneously arresting implicated officers and securing evidence. Judge Harrington was being taken into custody at the courthouse. District Attorney Palmer was being arrested at his office. The coordinated operation that Marcus had helped design was unfolding perfectly. Amid the controlled chaos, Marcus spotted movement through the interrogation room window, Officer Denton sprinting toward the records room. "Server room," Marcus shouted, breaking free from the agent helping him up. "He's going to delete files." Despite his injuries and exhaustion, Marcus pursued, following Denton through the building's maze-like corridors. He rounded a corner to find Denton holding a young black administrative assistant, Angela Foster, with a gun pressed to her head. "Stay back," Denton shouted, desperation evident in his voice. "I'll shoot her, I swear I will." Marcus slowly raised his hands. "Nobody needs to get hurt, Denton. It's over." The young woman's eyes were wide with terror, her body trembling as Denton tightened his grip. "It's not over until I say it's over. I want a car-clear path out of town." FBI tactical units had positioned themselves at both corridor ends, weapons trained but unable to act with Foster in the line of fire. Marcus took a careful step forward. "Angela has nothing to do with this. Let her go take me instead." Denton's laugh held an edge of hysteria. "You think you're so special." The hero FBI agent Marcus continued, his measured approach, voice remaining calm. "Not a hero, just someone doing their job, like Angela was doing before you put a gun to her head." He was close enough now to see sweat beading on Denton's forehead, the slight tremor in his gun hand. "I've got nothing to lose now," Denton insisted, though his voice wavered. "They'll bury me for what I've done." Marcus nodded acknowledgement. "Probably. But there's a difference between prison time for corruption and life for killing a hostage. You make that choice right now." Something in Marcus's steady gaze connected with whatever humanity remained in Denton. His grip on Angela loosened slightly. "What happens to me if I surrender?" Before Marcus could respond, Angela used the momentary distraction to twist away, creating space between herself and the gun. Marcus lunged forward, deflecting Denton's arm upward as the weapon discharged into the ceiling. They grappled briefly before Marcus executed a precise takedown, disarming Denton and restraining him until tactical agents secured the scene. As medics attended to Angela and led Denton away, Director Thompson approached Marcus. "That was unnecessarily heroic," she remarked, though her expression showed both concern and pride. The tactical team had the situation covered. Marcus winced as a medic examined his reopened shoulder wound. Force isn't always the answer. Sometimes understanding someone's fear works better than confronting it with more fear. Thompson studied him thoughtfully. "Your brother would be proud, Wells." She patted his uninjured shoulder before turning to coordinate the ongoing operation, leaving Marcus to wonder if justice had finally been served not just for Oakwood, but for Elijah as well. 3 months passed before Marcus Wells returned to Oakwood. Summer heat had given way to autumn crispness trees along Main Street, transitioning to gold and crimson. The physical evidence of his ordeal had mostly healed, though occasional shoulder pain remained a stubborn reminder. As his government sedan crossed the invisible boundary between North and South Oakwood, Marcus noted subtle changes, newly paved roads in the South Side construction at the community center, and most tellingly, the absence of patrol cars lurking at neighborhood corners. The federal grand jury proceedings had been exhaustive, with Marcus testifying for 5 consecutive days about the systematic discrimination and corruption he'd documented. His testimony, combined with evidence gathered during the raid, resulted in 27 indictments against Oakwood officials, 11 police officers, including Chief Keller and Sergeant Lawson, 3 judges led by Judge Harrington, 4 prosecutors, including District Attorney Palmer, 6 city council members, and 3 county administrators. The case sparked a Department of Justice pattern or practice investigation into similar departments nationwide, with early findings suggesting Oakwood was far from unique in its systematic oppression of black communities. Officer Tanya Rodriguez had been reinstated with full back pay and commendations for her courage in documenting departmental abuses. Her evidence proved crucial in securing indictments against officers who had threatened and intimidated her. Officer Brian Mitchell received immunity for his cooperation, providing testimony that helped connect individual incidents to the broader conspiracy. The human impact extended beyond legal proceedings. Dozens of individuals wrongfully convicted under Oakwood's corrupt system had their cases reviewed, with 17 convictions overturned immediately and dozens more under appeal. Jamal Washington's son Darius had his record expunged, opening educational and employment opportunities previously denied him. Businesses forced to close under discriminatory enforcement were eligible for restitution, with federal grants establishing a community development fund for Southside revitalization. Marcus parked outside the newly renovated community center, where a town hall meeting was scheduled to discuss the police department's ongoing reforms. The building looked different, freshly painted with a mural celebrating local civil rights pioneers spanning one exterior wall. Inside, he found the meeting room already filled with community members, city officials, and federal monitors. Jamal Washington spotted him first, crossing the room with hand extended. "Agent Wells." "Or should I say Unit Chief Wells now?" Marcus smiled, accepting the handshake that turned into a brief embrace. "Just Marcus today. I'm here as an observer, not officially." His recent promotion to lead the FBI's new Police Integrity Unit had been announced the previous week, a position created in response to the Oakwood case and similar investigations nationwide. The meeting began with introductions of the interim police leadership and newly appointed Civilian Oversight Board, which featured significant representation from black residents, including Reverend Johnson and Angela Foster, the RT, administrative assistant, who had survived the hostage situation. The discussion was sometimes heated but predominantly constructive, addressing community concerns while establishing new accountability mechanisms. Sarah Bennett sat in the front row, recording the proceedings for what had become an ongoing series documenting Oakwood's transformation. Her initial expose had earned national journalism awards and sparked similar investigations in other communities. During a break, she approached Marcus. The inside story is still yours to tell. Whenever you're ready, she reminded him. People should know what really happened. Marcus nodded noncommittally. He wasn't ready to revisit those events publicly, still processing the trauma and triumph they represented. After the meeting concluded, Marcus drove to Oakland Cemetery on the town's eastern edge. He walked between granite headstones until reaching a simple marker in the veterans section, Elijah Wells' beloved son and brother. Though Elijah was buried in Chicago near their parents, Marcus had come to associate his brother's memory with his fight for justice in Oakwood. "It's not perfect," Marcus said quietly to the absent brother who had nonetheless been present throughout his investigation. "But it's changing. People are listening now." A voice behind him interrupted his solitude. Agent Wells Marcus turned to find a young officer in an Oakwood PD uniform, perhaps 25, regarding him with an expression of uncertainty. The name badge read Lawson. Marcus tensed momentarily before recognition dawned. Michael Lawson, Sergeant Lawson's son. The young man nodded, removing his hat respectfully. "I wanted to apologize for what my father did. To you and to this community." The resemblance to the elder Lawson was striking, though Michael's eyes held a humility his father had never displayed. "My father taught me that being police meant controlling people, enforcing our will. I'm trying to unlearn that to understand what service actually means." Marcus studied him, searching for insincerity but finding none. "That's not an easy path. Many won't trust you because of your name." Michael nodded, acknowledging this reality. "I considered quitting, changing my name, starting somewhere new. But running from the past doesn't fix it." He hesitated before continuing. "I was hoping maybe you could help guide me. Not officially, just advice sometimes from someone who understands what real justice looks like." The request surprised Marcus, creating an unexpected full-circle moment. After consideration, he extended his hand. "We all need guidance sometimes. Call my office next week." The exchange left Marcus thoughtful as he drove to his final Oakwood destination, the FBI field office established to oversee departmental reforms. Director Thompson had flown in for a progress briefing, her first visit since the raids 3 months earlier. "The Oakwood model is being implemented in 4 other jurisdictions," she explained, as they reviewed documentation. "Your approach of combining community intelligence with federal resources is proving effective at identifying systemic discrimination." When their official business concluded, Thompson studied Marcus with the perceptive gaze that had made her a legendary director. "You've been offered a promotion to assistant director. The recommendation is on my desk." Marcus had been expecting this. His success in Oakwood had created career opportunities, but he remained ambivalent about further advancement into bureaucracy. "I need to stay operational," he explained. "The new unit needs field leadership, not another desk administrator." Thompson seemed unsurprised by his response. "I thought you might say that, which is why I've already approved your request to develop training for the academy. The next generation needs to hear directly from someone who's done this work successfully." 1 week later, Marcus stood before a new class of FBI trainees at Quantico, scanning faces representing the diverse future of law enforcement. Justice isn't abstract. He began moving from behind the podium to engage directly with the class. It's not just about enforcing laws, but ensuring they protect everyone equally. The badge doesn't give us power over communities. It gives us responsibility to them. As he spoke, Marcus noticed engaged expressions, furious note-taking, and most encouragingly thoughtful questions challenging traditional enforcement paradigms. These new agents had chosen law enforcement during a period of national reckoning with its historical abuses, suggesting a commitment to meaningful change rather than maintaining status quo. After the lecture, a small group of trainees approached with additional questions. One young woman, her expression earnest, asked what had sustained him during the darkest moments in Oakwood. Marcus considered the question carefully, remembering the taser attack, the car crash, the days in hiding, the confrontation in the interrogation room. "Faith," he finally answered. "Not necessarily religious faith, though that works for many. Faith in the community that sheltered me when I had nowhere else to go. Faith in colleagues who risked their careers to support an investigation others wanted buried. Faith that systems can change when enough individuals within them demand better." He touched the Bible in his jacket pocket, Jamal's grandmother's gift, that he now carried as a reminder of protection found in unexpected places. Most importantly, faith that truth matters even when powerful forces try to bury it. As the trainees dispersed to their next class, Marcus gazed through the academy windows at the training grounds where he had begun his own journey 15 years earlier. The system wasn't fixed, not in Oakwood or nationally. Discrimination remained embedded in institutions built upon historical inequities. But in small, significant ways, change was happening through the courage of individuals willing to stand against corruption, sometimes at great personal cost. For Marcus Wells, that knowledge provided something he hadn't fully expected to find in Oakwood: hope that justice, while imperfect and incomplete, remained possible for those committed to its pursuit. Has this story changed how you think about police reform and racial justice? Comment below with your thoughts on what it takes to transform systems built on discrimination. If you believe in the power of individuals to create meaningful change, hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories of courage in the face of corruption. Share this video with someone who needs to understand that justice requires action, not just ideals. Thank you for joining me on this journey through Oakwood's transformation, and remember, the most important step toward justice is often the courage to take the first one. The story of Agent Marcus Wells illustrates that systemic racism thrives not through individual bad actors alone, but through interconnected institutions protecting one another. True change requires both personal courage and collective action. Wells succeeded not merely because of his FBI authority, but because community members risked their safety to protect him when official channels failed. This demonstrates how justice depends on both those working within systems and those organizing outside them. The transformation in Oakwood reveals that accountability must be comprehensive, targeting not just police, but judges, prosecutors, and politicians who enable discrimination. Partial reforms fail when power structures remain intact. Moreover, Wells' journey shows that healing requires more than punishment. It demands rebuilding trust through community oversight, economic restoration, and creating pathways for new leadership. Perhaps most importantly, the story challenges us to recognize that justice work is deeply personal. Wells was driven by his brother's memory, Rodriguez by her professional integrity, and Jamal by love for his son. Their individual moral choices, multiplied across a community, created the foundation for systemic change. Real progress happens when people refuse to accept injustice as inevitable, when they maintain faith that truth matters even when powerful forces attempt to bury it. Change begins with the courage to witness wrongdoing and the commitment to stand against it. Has there been a moment in your life when you had to choose between staying silent about injustice or speaking up at personal risk? Comment below about what gave you the courage to act or what held you back. If you believe that accountability is essential for healing in communities affected by racial discrimination, hit that like button to stand with those fighting for systemic change. Subscribe to our channel for more stories that expose difficult truths about our society and celebrate those brave enough to challenge corrupt systems. Share this video with someone who needs to understand that racial justice requires more than good intentions. It demands concrete action and structural reform. Thank you for joining us in these crucial conversations. And remember, in the fight against injustice, your voice and your solidarity matter more than you know.